Happy Thursday, friends. And if you're listening live or watching live, happy Thanksgiving. How's your week going? Are you taking a break? Taking some downtime? I wanted to take advantage of the timeliness of this episode and talk about a couple new spins on gratitude. I didn't want to do an episode on gratitude for the sake of branding, be like, we should talk about gratitude because it's Thanksgiving, and say a bunch of stuff you've already heard a million times and could Google in 1 second. You have heard about gratitude journals, that it's a good habit, that you should do, a list of 5 things every morning that you're grateful for, and it'll help you live longer and sleep better and blah, blah, blah. I don't mean to roll my eyes at it, but I just want to give you a couple things that have been extremely, I cannot overstate this, life changing for me, for clients. And it's not to say that a gratitude journal is not going to change your life and it's not going to be life changing. I want to give you some stuff that you can use today that will have an immediate impact. It will change your whole experience of whatever's happening, good or bad. And we're gonna go into some detail, you guys. I don't know what you're doing today, but we're gonna make it fun. We're gonna keep it light like we do. Should this probably be 2 to 4 podcasts? Yeah, but you can handle it. And I'm gonna talk about all this stuff in more detail later anyway. We need it wrapped up in a nice little neat package though. Like here, gratitude bento box. Here you go for your weekend and your holiday season coming up. We're gonna be talking about this theme of gratitude from 2 different angles. The first angle we're going to look at is if you're stressing, if you are traveling for the holidays, if you're around people that stress you out, if you are facing a stressful situation that has nothing to do with the holidays, we're going to give you something to do to feel better. And there's a little bit of gratitude that can be wrapped up in the end there. We're also going to look at it from the angle of I'm having a great time. We don't need to use gratitude as an antidote all the time, as a prescription for feeling bad. Gratitude can be a very effective balancer for complaints, for negativity, for negative outlook. We're kind of going to address that in the first tool I give you. But I also like you to remember that underneath the layers of, this is how you be a good mindfulness student. And this is what you should do based on science and research to be a responsible, growth minded, taking care of yourself person. Gratitude actually is supposed to feel good. Like it's in its natural state. It feels nice to feel grateful for stuff. I want to give you a way to maximize good experiences because I don't want to presuppose that you're only going to have negative, stressful experiences this holiday season. I want to assume that you're going to have a lot of lovely experiences. And I'm going to give you a tool to help them stand out more in your mind and have a deeper impact on you physiologically. Does that sound like a lot? I told you we're going to keep it fun. So, the first tool we're going to introduce is a spin on something called the work, which is a process developed by and made famous by Byron Katie. I'm going to put all this in the show notes if you ever want to deep dive on anything we talk about. Everything we talk about is going to be in the show notes. I'm going to give you an abbreviated version of this process. You're not going to need a worksheet. You're not going to need a journal. You're not going to need a YouTube video explaining how to do it. I want you to be able to take this with you into an airport, onto a plane, to your family member's house, or whatever. First, we're going to talk about what it's for, then we're going to talk about what it is. What it's for is not to be grateful instead of stressed, instead of complaining, instead of judgmental, because it's better and more virtuous and healthier to be grateful. So that's what you should do. That's not the point of this process for us. The point is for you to be more empowered over what you think and feel. The point is to end the pattern of somebody else or something else being in charge of how you think or feel. If you're always activated by somebody, if you're always stressed out by something, even if that thing is not in the room and you just have the idea of it, if you can't help but get stressed or get angry, then that thing is in charge of how you think and feel. And we don't like other things being in charge of how we think and feel. We want ourselves to be in charge of that. So that's the point. And I really want you to remember that because it can be so easy to want to good student this stuff. It can be easy to think, well, this is a bad thought to think, or I shouldn't feel this. We're actually giving you license and validation to think and feel whatever you are, but we're recognizing that you deserve to feel more empowered over what you think and feel and experience. So if you do not like this pattern that you're living in, where somebody walks in a room and you're instantly stressed out, or you have an idea about something and your emotions are off with the races, with the horses, off to the races. You understand what I'm saying. If you don't like that, if it doesn't feel good, if it's not going to end anytime soon on its own, this is the process you need. The first thing you're going to do is name the stressful thought. This can be a little more challenging than you think because when we start linking stress with an idea or a person, we can actually lose touch with what is stressful about them. We can just associate X person equals stress, X idea equals blah. Challenge yourself to articulate the stressful thought. And here's what I mean by stressful thought: this person or thing is over here. You being stressed are over here. I want you to think about what is the thought that happens in your head in between this person existing or walking in a room and you being stressed. What happens in your head that activates this stressful version of you? And I know it can be tricky too. If your mind is saying, I'm not having a thought, they are exhausting. That's just the truth. Okay, great. Your thought is probably X person is exhausting. So that's an example, right? X person is exhausting, or X person is so emotionally unintelligent. I actually was thinking about someone that I tend to get stressed out about. And it was really hard for me to identify, like, what does bother me about them? Like, what is it? And I was thinking of examples of things that happened or I remembered, but the thought was actually kind of hard to find until I realized, oh, you're being judgmental. And the thought that stresses you out, me, is they are so emotionally unintelligent. And that leads me to saying it's okay if you feel icky about this thought. I don't strive to be the person who thinks this about people, but if the thought is there and it's happening and it's causing you stress, we got to name it. Okay. So, no judgment, warm, fuzzy loves to yourself. Let's just find the thought that is stressful. It might be something like X person is so blank, dramatic, selfish, whatever. It might sound something more like this shouldn't happen or X person should do that. I'm keeping it vague right now because I didn't want to pigeonhole it in any way. This process is really useful for any stress you're experiencing, but my mother in law should help with the kids more over the holiday when we're visiting. Maybe that is your exact thought. So find the thought that's stressing you out, whether it's holiday and family related, airport related, bill related. But, if it's your mother in law, then it's fine. You're not alone. It's okay. You're allowed. Find the thought. Then what you're going to do is use your imagination, which you're good at. You're going to use your imagination to picture a very specific scenario playing out. Maybe it's somebody walking in a room and saying something that you immediately think, well, that's a dumb thing to say. They shouldn't say dumb things. Stressful thought, right? Or imagine a very specific scenario where you are walking through an airport and people are walking sideways, backwards, not looking where they're going, being in your way, going slowly, whatever people choose to do. Imagine this very specific scenario where you would normally think this stressful thought. And imagine what would happen if you couldn't think that thought. You got hit in the head with a frying pan. You have amnesia. This thought will not occur to you. Now, don't get cheeky and tell me, well, if I didn't think that thought, I would think a thought with a synonym. So it would be the exact same experience. Play along. I want you to imagine this specific scenario where someone walks into a room and says something that would normally stress you out because you would think they shouldn't say stupid things. What would your experience be like if it couldn't occur to you to think this stressful thought? What if your mind was just muted for a second? The chattiness stopped and so came in, they said the thing, and then wandered off. And you didn't think that particular thought. What might happen? What might not happen? Same thing in the airport example. If your thought is, this shouldn't be happening. This is a very common airport thought, and I have done so much work to recognize when this thought pops in my head and dismiss it immediately. So let's use that example. This shouldn't be happening. You missed a connection. Everyone's in your way. The wheel on your suitcase broke. Whatever the situation is that's causing you to think this shouldn't be happening. Imagine that same scenario where you are unable to think that thought. How do you feel? What do you do? What don't you do? How don't you feel? Normally, when I'm walking clients through this process, it can be a challenge to imagine not thinking a thought that seems so reasonable, so automatic. But if you are playing along, you can see another version of this scene. You know me, I'm a theater kid. And sometimes when my clients are particularly entertainment minded, that's another way I can ask them to do it. Pretend you're directing the scene. You're sitting on the couch here, so and so's walking in, or you're walking through the airport, your suitcase wheel is broken. Now I want you to direct the same exact scene, but so and so doesn't think she shouldn't say things like that, or this shouldn't be happening, or he's so selfish. What happens in the scene? Taking yourself out of it like that can actually be helpful because you can remove yourself from those automatic, true feeling thoughts and imagine it playing out differently. Maybe you feel neutral. Maybe you don't feel great, but you don't feel terrible and angry and frustrated. Maybe in the airport, you feel accepting, solid, safe, things that you probably don't feel when you're running around thinking this shouldn't be happening, this can't happen. In the living room scenario, maybe you don't start an argument. Maybe you don't spend the rest of the night complaining about that person and what they said, thus creating that as your most memorable experience of the night. Maybe you'd find something else to talk about with this person who would normally stress you out. Maybe you leave the room and go do something that you enjoy. Take a walk, have a festive cookie. In the airport, what do you do? What do you not do? Maybe you don't sprain your ankle, like running in shoes you shouldn't run and not paying attention. Maybe you don't snap at your husband or your kids or whoever you're traveling with. Maybe you keep your heart rate down. Maybe you have the presence of mind to think about options to solve the problem you're experiencing. This is not to say you're wrong and bad for thinking whatever you do and imagine all the ways you could be better and right. That's not what we're doing here, okay? We're looking at how powerful this thought is. Remember, the point of what we're doing here is to get you more empowered over what you think and feel. And we're highlighting how dang powerful this thought has become over your entire life experience in these scenarios. It's okay if it doesn't feel good, but trust me, go to the end of the process. You're going to feel more empowered. So now that we've highlighted how powerful this true feeling, probably automatic thought feels, we're going to poke some holes in it. So the final step of this augmented process that we're walking through is flip it. Flip the sentence around. You're going to find different versions of your original stressful thought, and you're just going to flip one element in each version. X is so dramatic might become I am so dramatic. X is not dramatic. X is so, what is an opposite of dramatic? Authentic. X is so authentic. You're finding the opposite of one element, not to disprove the original thought and prove how wrong you are for thinking it. We're looking at how could opposite versions of this same thought also feel true. X is so dramatic, feels true. And we cling on to what feels true. We recycle it. We bathe in it. We start walking around in it, wearing it like a sweater. Very hard to distance yourself from stress connected to a stressful thought that you're wearing like a sweater. So we got to take the sweater off. So many metaphors, you guys. We're poking holes. We're taking sweaters off. We're taking the wind out of the sails of this thought. We're not looking for which version is right, which version is true. All of these versions could be true. X is so dramatic. We have a lot of evidence for that. We don't need to question if you think that's true or not. I am so dramatic. How could that be true? Well, every time they walk into a room, I get instantly kerfuffled, and then I spend the rest of the night talking about the thing they said. One could argue maybe that's a little bit dramatic. Okay. So there's a world in which that could also be true. X is not dramatic. Can we find any evidence that that is also potentially true? Well, they drove here and didn't have an accident. They pay their bills. They just said something really normal and not dramatically. We could probably find evidence that they're not dramatic. What about X is so authentic? Can you find any evidence for that version of the thought being true? I mean, they sound like they're being themselves if they're walking in a room saying things that activate people. Maybe you can also get on board with, yeah, I can see how this is probably true. You're not convincing yourself to believe something else. You're taking the wind out of the sails of the primary version of this thought that happens so automatically that feels so true. When you know, I can also see how many opposites of this thought are also true. That thought has less power. That thought is no longer the one and only truth. Let's wrap up with the airport example. This shouldn't be happening was your original thought. What are some opposites of that? This should be happening. It can feel like a crazy idea when you're sitting there with your itinerary being like, no, no, I can prove this shouldn't be happening because I have it in writing. Look, take a deep breath. Is there a world in which you can see this opposite version of the stressful thought is true? This should be happening. Maybe the connection you just missed was headed into a terrible storm and they were going to get rerouted and you were never going to get where you were going if you got on that plane. Maybe you always stress yourself out about holiday travel and this is happening so that you can practice just having a chill time. So the next time you're walking into somebody's house that you know you get stressed out about, or something surprises you and you find yourself stressing, I want you to remember you have this ability to pull out the stressful thought from the overall situation. Find the power this one thought holds over your experience and poke some holes in it. Take some of the wind out of its sails. Take off the sweater. Is that enough metaphors for everybody? Hopefully, you can remember the next time this stressful thought occurs to you, so and so shouldn't say things like that. You can take a deep breath and remember, oh, that's right. We had to talk with ourselves about this. Maybe they should. Maybe I should. Maybe there's nothing anybody should do. Maybe I don't have to be instantly and extremely stressed by this. And maybe I can think or feel something else somewhere else. Remember, it's okay to leave the room. Now, you might be wondering, okay, Kirsten, we walked down a long and winding path with this process, and I'm on board and I do want to try it this holiday season. But what does this have to do with gratitude? This is where we're going to come back to you being on your own team. Remember, we're not doing any of these things that we bother to work so hard at so that we can be better students and get A pluses and like be correct humans. We're doing these for ourselves. We're being very deliciously selfish in the best way possible. And if something is happening in your orbit that gives you the opportunity to grow, to change a habit that is unhealthy and making you feel miserable, if something is giving you the opportunity to be more of the person you want to be and have more of the experience of your life that you want to have, we can see it as a good thing. We can actually be a teeny tiny bit grateful for this opportunity to not have to be so freaking stressed out every time Aunt Potato walks in the door, because that's not the life experience we're actually interested in having. We can be grateful for this opportunity to not get knocked over immediately every time there is a delayed flight, because we want to be the kind of people who are able to access a feeling of certainty and safety from within. We do not want to be externally dependent on every single thing going exactly how we plan for it to go in order to feel okay. We would love for everything to go exactly how we want it to go, but we don't actually want to be those people because that is a very stressful way to live. So, my invitation is you could either be a teeny tiny bit grateful for this growth opportunity, and or you could be a teeny tiny bit grateful for yourself being willing to look at this stuff. Otherwise, you're just on the hamster wheel, living your same status quo life. Stuff happens and you get stressed and you don't feel like you have a choice. And you feel yanked around by anything that can emotionally activate you because you've acquiesced all of your power over what you think and feel to the people and situations around you. So maybe you can be a little grateful to yourself for being a person who wants to feel more in charge of what they think and feel. Did we get there? I think so. All right, so that's looking at things from the stress angle. Now we're going to look at things from the savoring angle. Yeehaw. We're going to imagine, shockingly, you having a great experience in the airport or on a family trip or on a regular Tuesday. And we are going to make sure that you know how to maximize that experience. Why? Because flight delays and aunt potatoes and bills are inevitably coming. I didn't wanna use an actual name, and there's a potato on my desk, so that's why I said Aunt Potato. This is my positive mini potato. I may be a tiny potato, but I believe in you. Go do your thing, is what my positive potato says. So you know where that came from. Because negative experiences and stressful things are coming because they are a part of humaning, we want to get you so dang good at enjoying and savoring and fully inhabiting positive moments in your life that you become more receptive to them and less yanked around by your negativity bias. Because otherwise, it doesn't matter how many beautiful moments you have over this next holiday season. The things that are going to stick out in your mind are that damn delayed flight and that stupid argument and that selfish thing that somebody did. That's just how our brains are wired, unless we do something about it. So, this tool comes from a neuroscientist called Dr. Rick Hansen. He is one of my favorite resources in the personal development world. He is just a yummy mix of mindfulness and science. My favorite cocktail. Links are in the show notes to this TEDx talk that I'm going to be referencing right now. He also has great books and a podcast and all the things. So, the skill of savoring is what you're going to practice. The first thing that needs to happen is a good moment. So, you just got to pay attention. You got to pay attention to when your travel is going effortlessly, or all of your family's in the same room together and nobody's arguing and it's just a good moment, or when you're really experiencing a moment of joy. All you got to do is pay attention. The first step of savoring is noticing that you're having a good moment. The way I explain the next step makes sense to a lot of people who are really good at rushing out of positive feelings and positive experiences. The next step is don't. Don't rush out of it. The next step is let yourself actually sink further into the present moment. So if your mind wants to go shuffling through, oh yeah, this is a nice moment. Everybody's here together. Okay, what do I need to do next to get dinner ready? Or, oh yeah, this is delightfully stress-free travel. Okay, what time do I need to call the Uber to blah, 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 blah. If you have a tendency to move on quickly from nice feelings, I want you to challenge yourself to really fully inhabit the moment. Don't physically rush out of it. Don't mentally rush out of it. Don't emotionally rush out of it. Make the decision to enhance it, sink into it, absorb it. The way he explains this in the TEDx talk is passing mental states become lasting neural traits, but you have to work at it if you want to have any say in what those neural traits are. And our negativity bias makes it such that if we don't put any effort in, the negative experiences are going to stand out and stick with us more in our minds indefinitely. The delayed flight, the snarky comment, the selfish thing, those are going to be what we carry around with us in our minds. And that is what we are priming ourselves to re experience and pay attention to and prioritize mentally if we don't put effort into putting other things on the mental shelf. It's almost like if your mind, where here we go with another analogy, if your mind is like a library, you're automatically collecting negative memories, the stressful memories, the crappy memories. And that's what takes up room on the shelf. And those books, that particular collection attracts other like minded books. I heard you're a collector of judgmental thoughts and negative experiences. Here's some more books for you. So it's what we prime ourselves to re experience. Now, you might be having positive experience after positive experience in your life. You might be having the best week, month, year ever, but your mind is not wired to automatically store and prioritize that information. A quote from the TEDx talk is things have to last long enough in our experience to transfer from short term memory buffers to long term storage. all to say you can't rush out of that good moment if you want to keep it on the shelf. So let yourself fully inhabit a really good moment and know mentally you are savoring it. You can give yourself instructions to do this. Just hold on, hang out here for a second, savor it, let it feel good. Let yourself stay there long enough until it actually feels nice in your body. Or the reverse can happen. You can notice that your body feels good and like connected and warm and fuzzy and loving, then mentally realize, I am savoring this moment. Yum. What you're doing, final quote from the TEDx talk, is priming your memory systems to be more efficient at encoding this experience into neural structure. All that means is you are putting happier, more positive memories and experiences on the shelf, and therefore attracting more of those similar experiences. You are building a more positive, happier brain. You are walking around with a brain not just full of all of the stuff that negativity bias would have you hang on to. You can savor any yumminess you're experiencing and know you are ultimately building yourself into a more positive, more grateful, and bonus points, more resilient person. And yes, those are long term benefits, but you get the instant gratification of enjoying a moment in your day and not making it a fleeting, distant memory that gets lost to short term buffering. Whoa. I told you we were going to do a lot, but I also told you you could handle it. And these will change your life if you use them starting today. I recommend. Let me know how it works out. And as always, if you're ready to work on making these tools habits and using them effectively and really getting good at them and not letting them fall into the ether of stuff that you never got around to, that is what I'm here for. Go to kirstenparker.com/schedule. You can book a free call where we're going to talk about what you got going on, what you want, and the best way for us to work together because there are many options. It is a no pressure call. You do not have to sign up immediately or ever. This is fact finding for you to know, how can I actually take action on these things I think about working on or getting better at or changing? It's possible. It's not reserved for other people. You can do it. You deserve it. So book your call and we'll talk about it. Have a beautiful week and a beautiful weekend. I'll see you next time. Bye. Hey, want to find out your decision style? Obviously, go take the decision style quiz. It's in the show notes and at kirstenparker.com/quiz. We all have our style when it comes to making decisions, but do you know how to use your default way of thinking to your advantage? Or do you mainly get stuck in the most annoying parts of overthinking and people pleasing? The decision style quiz has your answers, my friend. Take it right now at kirstenparker.com/quiz.